Welcome to Hard Script.
Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories. She stood in the doorway with her suitcase already zipped. Didn't ask. Didn't explain. Just said, I think we need a break, a week apart, to see how we feel. I didn't flinch. Didn't question it. Just watched her walk out like she was expecting a reaction I'd given her too many times before. That was her pattern. Drop chaos. Wait for the emotional cleanup. But not this time. Because here's what she didn't know. I'd stopped waiting long before she packed that bag. She wanted a test? Fine. Let's both find out who we are without each other. The moment the door closed behind her, I didn't collapse. I didn't replay conversations or scan for hope. I opened my laptop, poured a drink, and made a list. A real one. Not of reasons to fix us, but of all the things I'd given up while loving someone who made everything conditional. 1. My self-respect. 2. My peace. 3. My voice. By the time the glass was empty, I'd added 17 items. 17 versions of me she'd slowly chipped away at while smiling like she was building a better man. She said the week was for clarity. Said space would help her breathe. But all I saw was a woman stalling, hoping I'd come crawling back when her experiment failed. What she didn't expect was that clarity would come for me first. By morning, I changed the locks. Legally. Quietly. She had her place, an Airbnb she reserved without asking. So I gave her space. All of it. I removed her name from the grocery delivery, turned off the joint streaming accounts, and paused the auto-pay on her phone plan. Not out of anger. Out of alignment. If we were on pause, then the benefits needed to match the status. That day, I went for a run. Longer than usual. No music. Just breathing and steps and the sound of decisions settling. When I got back, I deleted the anniversary reminder on my phone. Deleted our old photos from the cloud. Blocked her on social. Just for the week, I told myself. But the truth was already forming in the quiet. She thought she pressed pause. But what she really triggered was the start of something else. A life where I didn't wait to be chosen. By the second day, she texted, "Hope you're doing okay. Just checking in." That was her way of measuring damage. She didn't miss me. She missed the feeling of being missed. I left it on read. Not because I was angry, because I had nothing left to say that would serve either of us. While she was off, clearing her head, I was clearing the house. I boxed up the photos on the mantle. Every fake smile, every pose we'd struck for the approval of strangers. Took down the framed quote she bought that read, "Love means choosing each other daily." Funny, she hadn't chosen me in months. The kitchen was next. I tossed the specialty teas she made a big deal about, but never drank. Unsubscribed from the organic snack subscription she insisted on. Everything that screamed us quietly became mine again. And with every drawer I cleared, I felt it. A calm I hadn't known in years. Not grief. Not guilt. Just the weight of false promises leaving the room. I called my bank. Removed her from the joint account. Then froze the credit card she always said she only used for groceries, even though I knew the charges didn't match that story. No confrontation. No accusations. Just systems restored to one name, mine. That night, I sat in silence. No TV. No music. Just the hum of a fridge, the clock ticking, and the space where her chaos used to live. She texted again. "Do you want to talk later? Maybe call." I turned off notifications. Because here's the thing. When someone asks for space, they don't expect you to find peace in it. They expect you to wait. But I wasn't waiting. I was deciding. Reclaiming. Rewiring everything she'd convinced me I needed her for. By midnight, I realized something wild. I hadn't thought about her once that day in a way that hurt. Not once. She left thinking she could press pause. But I'd already found the play button, and it didn't include her anymore. By day 3, the house felt unfamiliar, but in the best way. Clean. Quiet. No passive-aggressive clutter. No half-finished tasks she'd leave for me to handle when you get time. I got time now. Time to think clearly. Time to breathe without watching my words. I started waking up earlier. Worked out harder. Cooked breakfast for myself. Not to impress anyone. Just to feel like a man again in my own damn space. There's something sacred about freedom after emotional noise. Something pure about a silence no longer held hostage by tension. That afternoon, I found her notebook. The one she used for self-growth. Journals full of quotes, therapy buzzwords, and doodles she said helped her reflect. I flipped through pages. One sentence was underlined 3 times. "If he's not evolving with you, He's holding you back. That's when I knew. She didn't leave to figure herself out. She left because she believed I was beneath her journey. But she never saw mine. While she was posting filtered selfies and spiritual captions, I was picking up the weight she dropped, financially, emotionally, mentally. She called what I gave stability. She called what she offered passion. But the truth? She drained me dry and framed it as growth. I opened my laptop and canceled the anniversary dinner reservation she clearly forgot we even had. Then I changed my emergency contact from her name to my brother's. One less illusion. One more step forward. That night, I slept better than I had in months. Solid. Dreamless. Because there's no insomnia when your peace isn't waiting for someone else's permission. She sent another message around midnight. Thinking about you. Let me know if you miss me too. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. Because here's what she still didn't get. I wasn't missing her. I was finding me. And by the time her week apart ended, I knew something with full certainty. She'd return to the same door. But there'd be no version of me behind it waiting. Day 4 started with clarity and ended with closure I didn't need from her. I spent the morning clearing out the closet. Not angrily. Not dramatically. Just methodically. Her side used to be packed. Jackets she never wore, heels she used to impress strangers, and dresses tagged for events that never happened. I folded them, bagged them, set them aside like unwanted decor from a chapter one no longer wanted to reread. By noon, the closet was balanced. Just my clothes now. My space. And it didn't feel empty. It felt earned. I dropped the bags off at her sister's place. No message. No warning. Just a knock, a nod, and a step back. Her sister looked surprised, maybe even a little relieved. She didn't ask questions. She just took the bags and closed the door. That silence. It said everything. I walked away lighter. Like every step removed another thread from the guilt she used to sew into my skin. Back home, I changed the Wi-Fi password. Not because I was petty. Because I realized she never paid for it, but always complained when it lagged. That was our pattern. I provided. She picked apart. Not anymore. Around 5 p.m., she called. I didn't answer. Then came the voicemail. I thought we agreed this was just space. Not erasing each other. But that's exactly what I was doing. Not out of revenge. Out of necessity. Because sometimes you don't realize how small you've become in someone else's world until you start living in your own again. That night, I met up with Marcus, an old friend she never liked. Said he was too immature and too blunt. Truth is, Marcus was the only one who ever looked her in the eye and saw straight through her. We had a drink, laughed about dumb memories. And somewhere in that conversation, I felt it. Joy, not relief. Real joy. For the first time in forever, I wasn't checking my phone. I wasn't explaining my mood. I wasn't shrinking to keep peace. I was present. And it hit me hard. She thought I'd spend the week aching for her return. But by day 4, she wasn't just gone. She was irrelevant. By day 5, she started showing signs of panic. A longer message. More emotional this time. I don't know if this break was a mistake. I thought we'd both reflect, but you've gone quiet. She still didn't get it. Silence wasn't distance. It was a decision. She thought I was pulling back to protect myself. I wasn't pulling back. I was stepping out. That morning, I emailed my lawyer. Nothing dramatic. Just requested advice on separation logistics. What counted as shared assets, what didn't. There was no rage in the message. No sadness either. Just cold clarity. While she was experimenting with detachment, I was constructing the exit. Every move she made for space. I matched with precision. Removed her name from the car insurance. Redirected our mail. Updated emergency contacts at work. Closed the shared Google Calendar she never checked anyway. And when I removed her name from my medical file, the nurse paused. Asked, "Do you want to list someone else as your emergency contact?" I said no, not yet. Because for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I needed saving. That evening, I went to a place I hadn't been in a while. The lake an hour outside the city. I sat on the dock, feet dangling, and thought about who I was before all of this. Before the manipulation masked as motivation. Before the criticism wrapped in constructive advice. Before the woman who said she loved me, but only when I fit the version of me she preferred. That's when it all clicked. She hadn't fallen out of love. She'd just grown tired of pretending to love a man who no longer played by her script. And me? I had stopped performing the moment she walked out that door. She assumed a week apart would make me chase. Miss her. Prove something. But all it did was remind me of everything I forgot about myself. Strength, clarity, peace. I left the lake that night and drove back with the windows down, the wind loud, and my thoughts louder. No part of me wanted her to return. Not because I hated her, but because I finally loved myself more than the version of me she tolerated. Day 6 didn't begin with dread. It started with calm. Sunlight through the blinds. Black coffee, hot and bitter. My reflection in the mirror, sharper, steadier, familiar. I wasn't waiting for anything anymore. Not her voice. Not an apology. Not some vague sign that she finally saw what she had. The night before, I'd slept straight through. No tossing. No midnight thoughts pulling me into loops. I woke rested. Clear. Her text came early. A picture of her suitcase with the message. Flying back tomorrow. Can't wait to see you. As if we'd agreed on something. As if my silence meant I was preserving what we had. She didn't realize I was dismantling it. That day, I walked through the house one last time, not as a shared space, but as mine. I moved the furniture. Threw out the lavender candle she loved, but never lit. Deleted the playlist we made together. She used to say every item told a story. I was done reading them. I even took down the whiteboard in the kitchen, the one where she wrote weekly goals and affirmations, like she was auditioning for a better version of herself every Monday. None of them ever lasted past Wednesday. Mid-afternoon, I called the locksmith. Scheduled him for the following morning. New locks. New keys. Only mine. And then I did what most men don't do soon enough. I booked therapy. Not to fix the marriage. To unlearn what I tolerated. That evening, I met with my cousin Ryan. Someone I distanced myself from because she thought he was too blunt, too bro-ish. We talked for hours. About life. About her. About me. He didn't say, "I told you so." He didn't need to. He just looked at me and said, "Took you long enough, man." And that's when I realized. This wasn't just a break. This was a release. She was flying back expecting to slide into a familiar groove. Same couch. Same kitchen. Same man. But I wasn't the same. And nothing about that house belonged to her anymore. By the time I got home, her message had changed. "Can you pick me up from the airport?" I didn't reply. I just set an early alarm, confirmed the locksmith, and went to sleep with the door locked. Knowing by tomorrow, even the lock would match the man I'd become. Day 7. She landed at 9:42 a.m. I knew because she sent a selfie from the airport terminal with a caption. "Can't wait to be in your arms again." As if we were still a love story. As if my silence had been romantic tension instead of strategic removal. I didn't text back. Didn't pick her up. Didn't explain. I let the silence answer the questions she never asked while we were still together. By the time her Uber pulled up to the driveway, the locksmith had already finished. New locks, fresh keys, none of them hers. I watched from the upstairs window as she tried the old key. First with confidence. Then confusion. Then something else. Fear maybe. Recognition. She rang the bell 3 times. Then again. Then knocked. But the man she left a week ago wasn't home. Not anymore. Eventually, she stepped back and pulled out her phone. I let it ring once before powering it off. 10 minutes later, I walked down the stairs. Not rushed. Not angry. Just done. I opened the front door and stood there. No words. She looked me over. Same man, new posture. Calm. Decisive. She started talking. Fast. Panicked. "Why are the locks changed? Why didn't you answer my messages? I thought we agreed." I raised a hand. Not to silence her. To let her know I had nothing left to give to this scene. I pointed to the duffel bag by the door. Everything that was still technically hers. Phone charger, mail, a sweater. That's all. No tears. No speech. Just facts. Then I stepped back and closed the door. Behind it, I felt nothing. Not because I was cold. Because I was clean. She stayed on the porch for a while. I heard her pacing. Heard her trying to call again. Heard the moment she realized this wasn't a punishment. It was a finish line. Later that night, a mutual friend texted me. She says she doesn't understand what happened. "You were supposed to wait." But I didn't wait. I moved. Moved through the grief. Moved out of her orbit. Moved into the version of myself I should have protected from the beginning. She wanted space to find herself. And I gave it to her, with no path back. Because she tested the marriage. And I passed by walking away. The next morning, my phone lit up with a dozen missed calls. All from her. 1 from her best friend. 2 from her sister. I didn't open a single message. Because once you've explained yourself 100 times, silence becomes the only language you trust. She hadn't knocked again, hadn't waited. She left the porch after 20 minutes, probably hoping it was all just a shock tactic. A scene she could fix with a teary monologue and a promise to do better. But that playbook was old, and I'd already closed the chapter where her words held weight. I spent that day differently. No pacing, no flashbacks, just rebuilding. I returned the couch pillows she insisted on, the ones for aesthetic, not comfort. Bought new ones. Gray, simple, solid. Like peace. Repainted the guest room. Turned it into a studio. Something I'd always wanted. Something she said we didn't have time or space for. She was right. There was no space when you're always shrinking to make someone else feel bigger. I made space now. Real space. For me. For breath. For silence that didn't ache. In the evening, her email came. Paragraphs. How cold I'd become. How she didn't recognize me. How we were supposed to fight for this. But that's the thing. She only learned to value me when she saw the exit door close behind her. Too late. I didn't reply. She needed answers. Let her find them in the absence of reaction. Let her feel what I'd felt for years, talking to someone who hears you, but never listens. By nightfall, I posted a photo. Nothing dramatic. Just me, coffee in hand, the sun hitting the porch she once stood on like it belonged to her. No caption. Just being. It didn't take long. Mutual friends liked it. So did people she always compared herself to. She watched it all. I knew. Because 10 minutes later, she blocked me. And that was her loudest admission yet. She wanted to control the narrative. But I was done playing a part in her fiction. She said she needed space to think. But I gave her something better. Silence. Permanent. Unapologetic. Complete. By day 9, the noise started coming from outside the house. Friends. Mutuals. People I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly checking in, not with care, but curiosity. She's saying she just needed time. She thought you were both on the same page. Are you really ending it like this? Yes, I was. But not out of pride. Out of precision. See, she thought the break was a pause. But I saw it for what it truly was, permission. Not to fix us. To free me. She gave me 7 days of silence, and I used every one to disconnect her from my future. Her best friend called me, left a voicemail full of damage control. She's devastated. She didn't know you'd react this way. You could have talked it through. No, we'd talked enough. Conversations don't fix people who only listen to win. For years, every conflict turned into a courtroom. Her words polished, mine picked apart. Now, there was no courtroom, just a closed case. That afternoon, I finalized the divorce papers. Digitally signed, sent, filed. I didn't even feel relief. Just closure. I sat on the balcony after that. Same one she once said was too small for both of us. She was right. It was built for peace, not performance. Around 5 p.m., she tried one more time. Not a call, not a text. A letter, handwritten, left at my doorstep. Pages. Explaining. Crying through ink. She said she got scared of how stable I was. That I made her feel too seen. That it was never about not loving me. It was about not loving herself enough to stay. I read every word. Then folded the letter, placed it back in the envelope, and dropped it in the trash. Not because I hated her. Because I refused to re-enter a fire I had already walked out of without burns. That night, I slept with the window open. No ghosts. No ache. Just air. Clean. Quiet. Earned. Day 10 came like sunrise after a storm. No noise. No weight. Just light. I woke up early, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Made coffee. Opened the blinds. Let the morning hit the floorboards that used to echo with tension. There were no reminders of her anymore. No toothbrush by the sink. No forgotten jacket draped over the couch. No scent lingering like a ghost of the woman she pretended to be. Just stillness. I checked my email. Nothing from her. Just final confirmation from the county. Divorce filed, awaiting processing. That part of my life wasn't suspended. It was over. And not in bitterness. Not in anger. In peace. Later that day, I ran into someone we both knew. Jason, a co-worker she never liked. He looked surprised. Said, heard what happened. Thought you guys were solid. I just nodded. Didn't correct him. Let people believe what they wanted. I wasn't rewriting history. I was done starring in hers. He mentioned she was staying with a friend. That she looked off. Quiet. Kind of lost. I didn't react. Not because I didn't feel. Because I'd already felt everything when she left. Now there was nothing left to process. She'd walked away expecting chaos, guilt, maybe even a chase. Instead, she met silence. Stillness. And that silence? It screamed louder than anything I could have said. It told her, "You tested love like it was invincible. You gambled loyalty like it had a reset button. You assumed I'd beg. But I don't beg. I rebuild." That evening, I walked the neighborhood trail, the one she always said was boring. The sun hit the trees just right. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like a man missing anything. She wanted closure. But real closure doesn't come from long talks, tears, or recycled promises. It comes when the door stays shut, and the person inside doesn't open it, not out of spite, out of strength. So I left her in that silence. And in that silence, I didn't vanish. I became someone she never thought I'd have the strength to be. Gone. And better. Been through it. When they crossed a line, and you made sure they felt it.